storm inside of me. Let it rise. Let faith arise. Let faith be the song that overcomes the raging sea. Let faith be the song that calms the storm inside of me. Let it rise. Let faith arise. Let it rise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Oh, fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation crying out, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. We praise you. We praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Oh, fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation crying, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Lift up a shout of praise. Lift it up, a shout of praise to the Lord. We lift it up, a shout of praise to the Lord. Your blood is healing every wound. Your blood making all things new. Your blood speaks a better word. Your blood, the measure of my worth. Your blood is more than I deserve. Your blood speaks a better word. Speaks a better word. And it's singing out with life. It's shouting down the lies. It echoes through the night. The presence precious blood of Christ speaks a better word, speaks a better word. Your blood, a robe of righteousness, your blood, my hope and my defense, your blood forever covers me, forever covers me. It's singing out with life, it's shouting down the lies, it echoes through the night. The precious blood of Christ speaks a better word, speaks a better word. It's calling out my name, it's breaking every chain, it's making all things right. The precious blood of Christ speaks a better word, speaks a better word. It speaks a better word. It's rewriting my history. It covers me with destiny. It's making all things right. The precious blood of Christ. It's rewriting my history. It covers me with destiny. It's making all things right. The precious blood of Christ. It's rewriting my history. It covers me with destiny. It's making all things right. The precious blood of Christ. It's rewriting my history. Yes, it is. It covers me with destiny. It's making all things right. The precious blood of Christ. It's singing out with life. It's shouting down the lies. It echoes through the night. The precious blood of Christ speaks a better word, speaks a better word. It's calling out my name. It's breaking every chain. It's making all things right. The precious blood of Christ speaks a better word, speaks a better word. And it's making all things right. The precious blood of Christ speaks a better word, speaks a better word. It's making all things right. The precious blood of Christ speaks a better word, speaks a better word. It's calling out my name. It's breaking every chain. It's making all things right. The precious blood of Christ speaks a better word, speaks a better word.
Yeah, we've been singing about the blood of Christ, and as I was singing that song, I just felt God saying there are some people that might not really believe in the power of the blood of Christ. And I was thinking, God was reminding me that He, from the foundation of the world, even before that, is all about love. He's all about union and relationship, isn't He? And He so loved the world that He sent His Son to die for us. And that blood speaks of that promise. That blood speaks of the victory that His love has burst forward. It has conquered anything and everything that separates us from Him. So whatever we're feeling, whatever we've done this week, whatever's happened to us this month, why don't we just close our eyes and why don't we just say, thank you for the blood of Jesus. Thank you for the blood of Christ. That no matter what has happened, and no matter what is going on in this world, no matter what's happened to us, no matter what we've done, the blood of Christ is fulfilled that promise. The blood of Christ is strong and sure, and we can stand on that promise that we are loved, secure, in union with God because of that. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, we don't have to do anything. It's all been done on that cross. That is the blood of Christ. We love you, Jesus. Amen.
And it's singing out with life. It's shouting down the lights. It echoes through the night. The precious blood of Christ speaks a better word. Speaks a better word. And it's calling out my name. It's breaking every chain. It's making all things right. The precious blood of Christ speaks a better word. Speaks a better word.
In the darkness we were waiting, without hope and without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes, to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word, from a throne of endless glory, to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, conquered death, and the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe for the souls of all who come to the Father are restored. And the church of Christ was born, and where the Spirit lives the flame. Now this gospel truth of old shall not kneel, it shall not faint. By His blood and in His name, by His freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King. Sing praise. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Let's sing hallelujah. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Hallelujah, hallelujah, our God reigns. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Forever all my days. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Forever all my days. Hallelujah. Say praise the Father. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Hear the voices. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings.
Come on, let's praise His name. Come on, let's praise His name this morning. God, we give you all the glory. We give you all the praise, Father. There is no one like you, Jesus. You alone are worthy, Father, of our praise. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. Amen. Amen.
Oh, hi guys. Hi, how we doing? Good, good. You know what, I should know better than to put on mascara that's not waterproof before worship, okay? It's like, so like, yeah, I should know better. I've been doing this long enough, haven't I? But I am really excited about what we are going to talk about today. Guys, can I get my first slide up? There we go. He restores my soul. I actually didn't know that this was on the back because I wasn't here last week. So I came in and I was like, oh, maybe God's trying to say something. You know, Jack did a really good job last week of introducing us to this series on emotionally healthy spirituality. And as he said, as the senior leadership team here at Frontline, we've been going through Pete Scazzero's book for about, I don't know, maybe 9 months or so. And if I'm being really honest, it has been quite challenging, to say the least. But it has also been incredibly freeing. And I would really encourage you that as we go through this series, that you take the time to really listen and hear what God might be saying to you. And today I'm going to talk about the practice of Sabbath and how that practice restores and replenishes both our bodies, our spirit, and our soul. And incorporating Sabbath into my own life is something that I have been doing for quite a while. It's a rhythm that has developed quite slowly. I've sort of taken it little steps at a time. And sometimes it's been hard, and there have been some things about it that have actually been really, really challenging. But it has also been a journey that I have found to be freeing and life-giving, which is why I'm going to share some of it with you. And I'm going to start by just saying that I'm sharing from my own experience. I am not an expert. I'm a disciple. So I am spending my time listening to God and learning from Jesus' example and then trying to put that into practice. It doesn't always go the way that I hope, but it does make a difference over time. And so I just really encourage you to, if you've heard a talk on Sabbath before, like me, you may have had some kind of a reaction, yeah? I know I'm not alone. But try to approach this with a really open heart that God is able to speak to you through this. So last week, Jack talked a lot about our hearts. And the Bible tends to use two interchangeable words to talk about the internal part of our being. It uses the word heart and it uses the word soul. It's that intangible part of yourself. You can't really experience that through your 5 senses, but your body does tend to respond to the things that are happening to you in your innermost parts. They, you know, if you're sad, you might cry. If you're happy, you might still cry. You know, if you're full of joy, still more crying, okay? See, this is why the waterproof mascara is needed, okay? But when the Bible's referring to your heart or your soul, it's talking about your emotions, how you feel. It's talking about your mind. It's talking about the way that you think, like your thought processes themselves. And it's talking about your will, your intentions, or your desires. And we might describe that as our humanity, or the thing that makes you, you. It's what makes you who you are. In 1 Thessalonians 5:23, God reminds us that he has created us spirit. Our spirit is what connects to God. He's created us with a soul, that internal experience of our lives, and a body, our physical experience in the world. And that each of those parts are connected to each other. You can't separate them. And each of them can grow in health. They can all be healthier. And this series on emotionally healthy spirituality is about how our emotional health can impact our spiritual health and bring growth and life and freedom. You see, one of the things about our souls is that they can get worn out by life. Most of us will have experienced this. We'll have been in seasons of life where we have felt worn out. That might be that we have dreams that don't turn into a reality. We've invested in relationships and those relationships might have gone sour. We've lost a job. We've been in financial difficulties. Someone we loved has died. Each time that we experience pain, loss, doubt, disappointment, we have to figure out what we are going to do with those emotions. Because how we process those emotions, or our lack of processing those emotions, will have an impact on our lives and the relationships that we are part of. And that includes our relationship with God. And the thing is, even good things might sap our emotions. Maybe you really love blessing your neighbors. Perhaps you're the friend that everybody can come and talk to, and they go away feeling heard and listened to, cared for. But perhaps you might feel a little bit tired after that. And that's really normal. Even those good things that help us to love one another, that help us to care for one another, and give us opportunities for thankfulness can come at a cost to our emotions. So we want to develop healthy practices that help us to be balanced in our emotions, not just practices that are there for a time of crisis. It's not that I'm not against crisis management. Crisis management is important, but wouldn't it be better if you didn't get to crisis in the first place? Yeah, okay, it would. So if we want to do that, we need some healthy practices. And I believe that Sabbath is one of those practices. So how do you feel? Do you feel perhaps overextended, stretched thin, overloaded? Maybe you're moving too fast. Maybe you feel great. Maybe you're like, I've got this. Life is going like a dream. That's okay too. It's good to feel good, isn't it? But for all of us, I think regardless of where we are, we all want to see more of God's peace, more of his love, so much more of his joy, and more of his goodness in our lives. And yet we live in a society where it can be quite hard to see that sometimes, because we live in a place where actually our society is generally more interested in what you produce, in your outcomes, in your achievements, than it is in who you are. If you are a young person who is currently doing GCSEs, I am sorry, because you are having an up-close and personal experience of what it's like when you have a society that values achievement over people. And the thing is, that is not Jesus' way. He values you. He values you so much more than anything you could ever do. Because, of course, he doesn't actually need you to do stuff for him. Because he's God of the world, so he doesn't need you to do stuff for him. But he does want you to be with him. He wants to spend time with you. He wants you to be part of his world, doing things alongside him, not for him, but with him, out of that loving union of spending time with him. I'm just going to read a scripture. It's Matthew 11, verses 28 to 30. And I'm reading it in the Message because I feel like it brilliantly captures this promise that God has for us. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. See, Jesus promises that he can actually teach us a better way to live. A way that's characterized by being with him, by recovery, by restoration and rest. It is a way of grace. It has no have-tos, ought-tos, shoulds or musts. It has a get-to. A way that you get to live, which is free and light and liberating. This is the gospel. Does it sound good? Do you want? Yeah. So, there's a particular passage in Scripture which I think has some really wonderful keys for how we go about living that type of life. And it is Psalm 23. It's a psalm that loads of people know, both Christians and people that have not yet met Jesus. Lots of people know it. And it describes, it's written by King David, it describes this season of faith and provision, of peace and restoration that he finds dwelling with God, being with God in the moment. And I'm just going to read the first 3 verses for you. The Lord is my shepherd. I will not be in need. He lets me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. And I think for me, you see, when I hear psalms like that, I like to imagine what it would be like to be in that type of place, to be in that space, in that moment. And so I am going to invite you to come with me there, okay? And I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and listen to being in that space. If you struggle to stay focused with your eyes closed, as some people do, I would like you instead to focus on this image on the screen, which is a beautiful stream, some undulating bits of grass. I think it's sunset, actually, not sunrise, but that's okay. But have a focus while I speak about this space that we're in. It's an early spring morning, and it's just warming up. You're barefoot, stood in short, warm grass, enjoying that soft but slightly scratchy feel on your feet. It smells clean, like the scent just after it rains. It's quiet. No people, but you can hear the rustling of wildlife, birds twittering, things moving right at the edge of your hearing, and you feel content. Worried about nothing because you know that all your needs are met. You can hear water moving nearby, trickling over rocks, making its way downstream. You get to the water's edge, tempted to dip your toes in. You know it will be cold, so you bite your lip, not wanting to let out a little scream when the inevitability of the cold water rushes to the forefront of your senses. You dip in your toe. You're surprised. It's cool, not cold, refreshing and delightful. You breach the silence with a little laugh, delighted in the moment, experiencing the goodness God has given to you. You can open your eyes. How does it feel to be in that sort of a place? Does it feel calm, peaceful? Maybe you feel joyful, happy? See, that Psalm of David, Psalm 23, holds some promises that Jesus talks about in Matthew 11. You see, because it is in this space that David's soul is restored. He's in a place of faith, okay? So he knows that everything he needs has been provided for him. Absolutely everything. He has no needs. He understands that Jesus is a good shepherd and that good shepherds look after their sheep. He's in a place of beauty, able to experience God's creation and the wonder of it and bask in it. He's in a place both at peace with himself and with his surroundings. He's not rushed. He's not too busy. He is not overextended. He is content. And God's desire to restore our souls is a desire to see us healthy. Not just to provide you with rest or sleep, but to restore your emotions to a place where they are balanced and to shower us with his love, with his affection, and with his affirmation so that we get to live this life that is free and light. And maybe you're just thinking, yeah, Jen, that sounds great, but I don't really have time to sit relaxing in a field right now. I'm kind of busy. And don't get me wrong, because honestly, when I first heard about Sabbath, that is literally how I felt. That sounds wonderful. How would that ever fit into my life? How could I ever do that amidst all the busyness that I've got going on? And when I started this journey, I was working as a solicitor at the time. So I was working really long hours. I was working early mornings. I was working late nights. I was working weekends. I was trying to be married, look after 3 children. I have a sister with a disability who I also support. It was a lot, okay? It was a lot. And I was like, I do not understand how this is possible. Not just how is it possible to do Sabbath, but exactly how does this look like the free, light, abundant life that Jesus promised, because I kind of felt like I'd been missold. I was expecting something that had not turned up. My reality looked nothing like David in Psalm 23. It was nothing like that. And I was quite mad about it, actually. I was frustrated. And that frustration sent me back to God's presence to say to him, I'm frustrated, and I don't understand why my life looks like that, and I need you to fix it. He didn't immediately fix it, okay? That wasn't like my instantaneous answer to prayer. Instead, he led me on a journey of really getting to know the truth about what I believed was true. Because actually, what you believe is the thing that dictates your actions, okay? What do you really believe? And what I actually believed, first and foremost, unlike David, I did not believe that God was my good shepherd and that I would have everything that I needed. I did believe that he was good, but I suppose in the sense that, grannies are good. I did believe he was good, but I didn't think he would provide all my needs. I didn't, and my life showed it. Because instead of relying on him to meet my needs, I relied on me to meet my needs. That is one of the reasons I was working so hard, because I didn't want to be without. I didn't want to have to go without. I wanted to ensure that I had everything that I needed. And instead of relying on him, I was relying on me. I wasn't looking at him as my good shepherd. And the second thing that I believed that wasn't true was that I needed to be in control. Because the world is chaotic, and I like to feel safe and secure. So, if I orchestrate the entirety of my world, put everything in place, think about every worst case scenario and put something in place to protect myself from it, then I would be safe. Yeah, so that's also a big lie that I believed about God, because I didn't believe that he was great enough to hold me, my family, my work, my friends, all the stuff that was going on in my life. I had a small, tiny image of God, but God is great. So I don't have to be in control, because the God who created the world with the power of his voice is perfectly capable of managing my life for me. I mean, he's clearly quite good at managing stuff. And my experience has been that I'm not actually that brilliant at it. You see, what I learned is that Sabbath is a beautiful gift from a good father who loves his children. He can be trusted. He can be trusted to provide. He can be trusted to hold all that stuff that you are carrying, because he is great. We just spent the morning praising how amazing he is. And however big you think God is, you have not yet plumbed the depths of him. There is so much more. And so the Bible provides us with this regular, sustainable rhythm of enjoying and delighting in God's presence. Sabbath is practiced all the way through the Bible, like literally all the way through. Right at the very beginning, God is the first person who practices Sabbath after he has finished his work of creation. In Genesis 2, verse 3, he says, "And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because it was the day when he rested from all of his work of creation." He rested, except he doesn't need to, does he? He doesn't need to rest, because the Bible tells us he doesn't sleep or slumber. He doesn't need to rest. And yet, right at the beginning, he provides us with this pattern for our lives, a way to live free and light by resting in him. Imagine if your focus changed from having to do things with God to just focusing on being with him. Just being with him, just hanging out with him, just spending time with him. What if you were able to live with a deep sense of God's presence in every single area of your life? I don't just mean at home and at work. I mean in your marriage. I mean in your finances, in your connections with your friends, in your connections with your family, in the places where you volunteer. What if God's presence was felt with you in all of those spaces? What if your time spent with others was continually shaped by the love you'd received from God, because you actually have a regular practice of sitting and receiving his love. Jesus is our best example of how to live those unforced rhythms of grace. If you read through the Gospels, you'll see that he is frequently leaving his disciples behind or sending them on ahead so that he can go up a mountain and pray and be with God the Father. Jesus prioritized time with God over doing stuff for him. And I'm sure it wasn't always convenient. And I'm pretty sure the disciples probably complained about it. Because I know that I would have done. So a biblical Sabbath is not like taking a day off work, okay? So when we take a day off from paid work, we will know this, is that it actually gets taken up mostly with doing errands, doesn't it? All the stuff you just can't get to in the rest of the week. You try to fit in a coffee with a friend, segued between the bank and something else that you've got to do, and it's not a Sabbath, it's a day off. A Sabbath is this 24-hour period when we stop work in order to behold Jesus. We want to be with him. We want to enjoy what he has to give to us. I think it's important to say it is not a legalistic ritual. You haven't got to do it to be a good Christian. Okay, that's not a thing. You haven't got to do it to be a good Christian. Sabbath will not save you. It can't. Only Jesus and his sacrifice on the cross can do that, okay? You don't have to do it. You haven't got to do it, but you do get to do it because it is a good gift from a good Father who gives it specifically to meet your needs. In Mark chapter 2, Jesus and his disciples are just going from one place to another, which happens all the time in the gospel. Jesus does stuff on the way to places forever. So they're walking through this grain field, and it's got tall bits of grain, and it's the Sabbath, which is full of rules, and they're breaking off the tops of the grain and sort of like munching and eating as they go, having a snack, no big deal. But when the religious leaders see what's happening, they get really angry and they challenge Jesus about the fact that him and his followers are forever just breaking these Sabbath rules. And this is Jesus' response from verse 27. Then Jesus said to them, "The Sabbath was made to meet the needs of people, and not people to meet the requirements of the Sabbath. The Son of Man is Lord even over the Sabbath." Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath. The Sabbath is all about him. The purpose of its entire day is to see him more clearly, to know him more deeply, and to experience his love. And yet what is equally true is that we need it. We need to see Jesus more clearly. We need to know him more deeply. We need to experience more of his love. The Sabbath is about him, and it is for us. And there are, I think, 4 gifts that we can experience through the practice of Sabbath, okay? They are being restored with joy, beholding Jesus, experiencing God's love, and being reminded of our future hope. We are restored with joy when we engage in activities that replenish us. Now, for all of us, those activities will be different. Think about the things that bring you life. What actually tops you up? Now, for some of you, you actually might need to think about this because maybe you've never really thought, what is it that I really love to do? What is it that when I do it afterwards, I am, in fact, full of joy? Like, I can't wait to do it. I love it when I'm there. And when I'm finished, I'm like, yes, this is amazing. When does that happen? It'll be different for everybody. I have lots of places, well, a few places that feel like that. I love being in nature. I love being out amongst trees, in forests, just seeing the fabulousness of God's beautiful creation. I like gardening. I love the fact that teeny tiny seeds grow into massive things, and I still can't really work that out, But it's amazing. And it totally baffles me every time that something that's like the size of a grain of sand contains all the information necessary to grow into something that's 6 foot tall. I don't know how God did that, but it's pretty awesome. I also really love roller skating so much. I love the freedom it brings. I love enjoying the movement that I am able to do with my body. So whether you experience God by being in nature and delighting in what he's made, or if the marvel of your body, running, jumping, skipping, climbing, and swimming makes you go, oh yes, those things are all worship. They are all about worshiping God for what he has made and the gifts that he has given us. And I think if you struggle to find ways to sort of express your joy, if you're somebody for whom that does not come easy, that is okay. Find a friend who's really good at it. Find yourself a friend who is full of joy and get them to take you with them, okay? Get them to take you with them so that you can experience the joy and beauty of the gifts that God has given to you. The second one is that we want to behold Jesus. This is the one that I've had to work on probably the most. See, when Jesus is our focus, all the other perspectives and all the other priorities fall into their correct place. Everything else finds its correct place when Jesus is our focus. And the practice of Sabbath reassures us that the world will not stop turning if we stop. It won't. It realigns our perspectives so that we begin to understand our finite smallness and God's infinite greatness. It declares that Jesus is enough. That is a countercultural declaration in a world that thinks that more is everything, that's full of consumerism. We want more, we want more, we want more, we want more, and yet, in practicing Sabbath, we declare absolutely, Jesus, you are enough. Everything I need right now and forevermore is found in the person of Jesus Christ. Honestly, it doesn't matter what it is you think you're looking for. You will not find it anywhere else except for in him. That is where it exists. We have limits and boundaries, despite the fact that I frequently try to convince myself otherwise. We have limits and boundaries. And Sabbath is a place where we are invited to embrace them. We live in a world that tells you to fight against your limits and boundaries all the time. And yet Jesus says, no, come. Just come and sit with me. Come and be with me. Explore the limits and be okay with them. It reminds us and helps us to learn to trust in God because we don't need to be in control because he is great. The third gift is that it allows us to experience God's love. The Sabbath acts like a delivery system for experiencing more of God's love in our life because as we slow down, as we embrace silence and stillness, we have the opportunity to actually examine our emotions and figure out how we feel and then bring that to God in all of its messy, messy beauty. Bring that to God. We can find creative ways to connect with him through worship or prayer or meditation, study, really any spiritual discipline that you enjoy, you get to do that in Sabbath. Take as much time as you like. Contemplate the love of God. Encounter Jesus through the cross. Because this isn't about taking time off from God, but taking time off with God to be with him. And sometimes we can get a little bit stuck in experiencing God's love, I think, when we restrict it to this sort of feeling of wild abandonment and passion that maybe sometimes we experience when we're in a gathered corporate worship session like this. But love is also steady and constant and compassionate and kind. And appreciating God's love, spending time appreciating his love for us is still a way for us to worship and helps us to connect to him in those quiet times. And the fourth gift is that it is a reminder of our future hope. Hebrews chapter 4 talks about a promise that we have of eternal rest from work. I can't wait. You see, Sabbath reminds us that God has already created for us a place in heaven where we don't have to work or strive anymore. We get to rest, to be restored, just like God did on that seventh day after creation. That's what he's inviting us into. Sabbath is our declaration of a future hope. It's our faith for what will be. This time that we're in right now, this time of work, of strife, of pain, of suffering, it will end. Jesus, our eternal hope, will return for his bride, and he's going to welcome us, his church, home to a place where we get to delight in his presence forever. This reminds us that we are not people of this world because we've been bought. We belong somewhere else. And when we get to practice Sabbath, we remind ourselves that Jesus is our future hope. This is going to end and we are going to go home and it's going to be epic. So you thought worship this morning was good. Oh, just you wait. Can I get the band back up, please? While Sabbath is wonderful, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it, it's also a real challenge, guys. It's a challenge. Choosing to take 24 hours off to be with God might actually sound terrifying. You might be thinking, well, how am I going to get everything done? What happens when I'm not available? How am I going to get everything else done? But honestly, my experience has been that those 24 hours have actually given me such a deep sense of peace. I've been restored and replenished when I've taken the time out. And I've still got everything I needed to do done. And now, if I do miss my Sabbath, I get quite annoyed because I want my time with Jesus. And it's become a rhythm that directs me back to God, to his plans, to his purposes. It reminds me that he is the one who is working out the plans for my life. I am not. And that actually I get to take off the responsibility that doesn't belong to me and give it to him. I don't need to be in control, do I? Because he's great, which means that he's actually responsible for the things that are happening in my life. So I am happily passing them over to him and living in the freedom and the lightness that he bought for me on the cross. Sabbath is a radical, inconvenient choice. It stands out from the crowd. There is nothing about it that looks like the world we currently live in. So if you are thinking of trying it out, take your time, okay? There's plenty of opportunity for trial and error. As I said at the beginning, I'm still learning, so I'm still doing quite a lot of trial and error. But enjoy the experimenting, okay? Make adjustments to your life. Like any spiritual discipline, Sabbath will take time, it takes planning, and it will take intentionality for it to work. Remember, it's not something you've got to do. It is something that you get to do. It's a good gift from your Father to restore your soul as you spend time with him. So, part of Sabbath practice, okay, is the practice of listening to God, okay? God loves all his children, and he speaks to all of us. Some of us, maybe he speaks to through the Bible. Some people might hear God through songs. You might see him in pictures. You might hear from him when you dream. But God speaks to us. And so in Sabbath style, we're going to practice listening to God together, okay? And what we're going to do is we are going to take 1 minute. We're going to sit in silence. And we're going to be trying to hear from God to say, what is he saying to you personally? And how might you respond? Okay? So we're going to take 1 minute now. Thank you, everyone. So, if you have an idea about what it is God's saying to you, and it's okay if you're not entirely certain what that is yet. Sometimes it takes time for us to hear what God is saying. But if you have the inkling of an idea, or you're certain what God is saying, then I would really recommend that you go and talk to someone about it. Speak to someone you trust, okay, about what your response is going to be, either at home or in your community, and let them help you as you figure out how you are going to respond to God's voice in this season. Thank you.